All right, hear the tunes. Don't forget show.
Thanks.
England Ghost Project. Welcome to the nightmare.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Ghost Chronicles right here on TogiNet and PowerX Radio. I am Ron Kolick, your host, the gatekeeper around the unknown, the unexplained, and perhaps the unbelievable New England's own Van Helsing. With me, my co-host, the lovely Maureen Wood herself. There you go.
Hey, Ron, how you doing?
Good. So nice of you to join us today. So,
Oh, yeah. I'm here. I'm here.
yeah.
Always exciting.
Yeah. And also joining us today is paranormal author Michelle Hamilton.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh,
Hi,
thank you.
Michelle.
Right. So
Hi.
Maureen, did you listen to that podcast I sent you the
I
beginning of it?
didn't, but I trust you. I didn't have time.
It
Um,
was it was so funny because on that podcast, you swear that we had her on the show. It's the exact same thing. It's just what you told me
there
here.
must be something about you, Michelle, that it's just you stay in my forefront of my consciousness. I guess that's what it is.
That could be a good thing or a bad thing.
No, it's very good. It's very good because not many people stay there.
it is a dark and scary place.
So, anyways, we want to welcome you on the show. You are the author of Ghost of. Wait a minute, I'm going to screw it up. Fredericksburg, is that correct?
Haunted Fredericksburg.
On Fredericksburg and the Ghostly Tales of Fredericksburg.
There you go. I just mixed them all together, which I usually do. So the Ghost. Wait a minute. The last one came out just last year, correct?
The Haunted Fredericksburg came out last year, and then this summer, the Ghostly Tales of Fredericksburg came out, and Ghostly Tales is the child version or the YA version of Haunted Fredericksburg.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Arcadia Publishing has an imprint where they're doing the Ghostly Tales series are child friendly or YA friendly retellings of their popular adult range, and they're starting to have some of the authors who write the adult write for the children's, and they asked me, and I submitted in a perspective, and they accepted my writing style to do to transfer the adult book into the child's book.
Was it difficult to make that transition where you're telling some of the tales are ghastly, right? And
Not really. Yeah, because some of the ones are. I definitely had to be very, sensitive on how we talk about enslavement, but I wasn't going to sugarcoat it. Uh, but there were some parameters of what you could and couldn't say, mainly involving violence on children. Fortunately, in Fredericksburg, we don't have that. But there was some, wording of ever there was a homicide, how would you word a homicide? And so it was actually pretty easy, and it was actually a pretty I wrote it in 3 months. I had a very short turnaround, and I was able to get that in on time.
oh,
That's
excellent.
cool. And what age? What is the age on that book? Do they have
It
like a
would
young adult?
be 5th grade to 7th grade.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Interesting.
Yeah, Maureen wrote a young adult series. Now, what ages is your books geared for, Maureen?
Well, we didn't do it so much per like the grade, but we did it 13 and up. But I will say, I mean, it's dependent on the person, right? My
Mhm.
daughter-in-law, of course she won't be listening to this, which is good. So she basically told me she was, terrified on some parts of the book. It was so real to her, so she basically had to turn on Bob's Burgers to make herself laugh before she could go to bed. I'm like, and you're in your 30s. It's a young adult book, but okay, that's all right. She's a bit
So, when you talk about haunted Fredericksburg, I'm thinking of Civil War battlefield, but you cover more than that, correct?
Correct. I cover again. This is Fredericksburg, Virginia. For those who aren't, because there are more than one Fredericksburg. We're not to be confused with Fredericksburg, Texas. But yeah, Fredericksburg, Virginia. I covered the colonial era up to the Civil War.
Oh wow! And so there's a history all the way back to colonial area of hauntings?
The first confirmed ghost, which is of a man named General Minor. He passed away suddenly in Richmond in the 1810s, and his ghost actually came home the night he died. So it's a classic crisis apparition.
Mhm.
He's the first confirmed ghost in Fredericksburg, and that was right after the War of 1812. So I
Oh.
include that story in there. But yeah, there's also Fredericksburg history goes back to the 1600s with the indigenous population who lived around the Rappahannock River. They used it for trading and also for food. The colonists come in the late 1600s. Fredericksburg is settled in the mid 1700s. Then we have the colonial period with the Washington family, George Washington's family, and other colonial patriots, and then into the Civil War. And of course, the horrors of slavery, too.
Mhm.
all right. Now you said that Mary Washington still tends to her gardens, waiting for her son George to come home and visit.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah, well, she's been experienced out there. I used to work at the Mary Washington House. I'm not working there anymore, but I did see. I was there for 10 years.
Oh wow!
There was a lot of paranormal activity that would, or frequent paranormal activity. It was a very gentle. I call it a tea drinking, genteel haunting. You would hear footsteps, whispering. Doors had a tendency to open up. There was one particular bookcase door that would open up. We joked that Mary wasn't happy with the staff, or the staff was misbehaving, or there was friction amongst the staff members, there would be a particular door that would open up. Children would experience things, and also the property itself, it dates from the colonial era, but again, the people into the early 20th century were living on site as the living caretakers, and so there's a long history of people, particularly women, who cared for that building, who may have stayed on. It was also used as a boys' school, a Civil War hospital. So in Fredericksburg, it's multi-layered. So the building may date to one particular time, but again, there's a long history of occupancy on these buildings.
Right,
Mm.
absolutely. I mean, a lot of times now, what do you think about even property? Let's say that a house was in a location or a museum in a location, and then once either it's not there in a different or it's a different type of building. You do have all those layers, but I mean, what are your beliefs on just the land having some type of haunted,
Oh,
you know,
the land is definitely haunted. One of my everyone gets a laugh. One of my chapters in both of the books is about the local Fredericksburg Barnes and Nobles, which is in a shopping district called Central Park. And while Central Park only dates to the 1970s, it used to be wetlands and a golf course, but that property, all those properties were plantations and farms. And so there's a man and a woman who, when the man in particular is sensed in the children's section, is not as creepy as it sounds. There's other creepy things that go on in that section of the store, but that's from the living. But he hangs out, and there's a female ghost they call the Borders ghost, because the building used to be Borders bookstores before Barnes and Nobles came in. And this is all Civil War or property, all farm property. There's across the highway is Books a Million. I've been in there enough times and got woozy in there enough times that I think, like, okay, there's something also in the Books a Million. I've heard of other modern day stores in the area that I live in that have had paranormal activity, and they're brand new Targets and 7-Elevens. And so we're in Virginia.
Really?
Everything is haunted. There's lots of um, buildings on battlefields in
Yeah.
the Fredericksburg area.
Mhm.
When I first moved to the Fredericksburg area in May of 2014, I was there for a month or two, and I was getting my hair cut, and the woman doing my hair goes, "Oh yeah, I live on the Chancellorsville battlefield or near it. One time I woke up and I saw a Confederate soldier walking down my hallway and through my
Oh,
living room."
wow.
Wow. Yeah.
So, where are you from originally, Michelle?
I was born and raised in San Diego, California.
Yeah, because you don't have much of a Southern accent, I'll tell you
No,
that
I
much.
I have the California mid Atlantic accent. That's the TV accent. This is where it came from.
Yeah, it's funny. But I want to circle around back to the Mary house again. And you mentioned about that bookcase, and I was just curious. You said whatever tension would occur that bookcase door was open. Was there any particular books in that bookcase that might have given us a clue to why that door had opened?
No, I think it was just an available location. Also, it was near where the original front door was. It was built over as other owners remodeled the house, but also in that general area would also be where the Mary's original
Okay.
front door was at. So it's either a door opening up, or it was really easy for her just to open something up when she wasn't happy. That was just her way of making things known.
Yeah.
There's products in the gift shop that the ghost didn't like. When I first started working there again 10 years ago, we used to sell little toy soldiers, little metal toy soldiers, and we had a British soldier that for the American Revolution, we had the Patriots and we had the Redcoats.
Mhm.
And the Redcoat one would always go flying off the shelf. So we had a paranormal investigation come in there, and they actually got an EVP where I say, "What is it about these toy soldiers that you don't like? What is it?" And it came back with, "I don't like redcoats." I'm like,
Wow.
"Okay, we will get
Yeah.
rid of them." So we
Right.
stopped selling them, and the other toy soldiers never went flying again.
It's
Oh,
intriguing.
That's really interesting. And you have something that I noticed on your Facebook too. You said there's a section that says the past can still be felt at the U Mercier Apothecary Shop, though not as actively haunted as the other sites in Fredericksburg. Strange things have reported by the staff. Like what?
So the Hugh Mercer Apothecary Shop is a unique building. So it's called the Hugh Mercer Apothecary Shop for Dr. Hugh Mercer. He was born in Scotland. He was part of the Jacobite Rebellion and came to the New World after that rebellion uprising failed. And he's a doctor. And during the American Revolution, he was a general and died from injuries he received on the battlefield. When he lived in Fredericksburg for several years, he was a physician and also had an apothecary shop. And apothecary shops are kind of like the early day pharmacies. The
Mhm.
funny part is where while the building is called the Hugh Mercer Apothecary Shop and it does date to the 1770s, it is not Hugh Mercer's apothecary shop. Actually, we've now determined through historic research that his shop was likely across the street on a corner, and the building did not survive. When the museum was created in the early 20th century, the ladies of the town who were establishing the museum found a building near where he had listed his building at, because they didn't have street numbers, so he just says at the corner of, and that building is at the corner of Caroline and another cross street. So they saw that building. It was from the 1770s. They said, okay, that must have been the Hugh Mercer Apothecary Shop. It wasn't. It was a store that belonged to a man named Henry Mitchell. Henry Mitchell was also from Scotland, but unlike Hugh Mercer, during the American Revolution, he was a loyalist, which means he sided with the British Crown. That caused him to be chased out of the Virginia colony. He was forced to leave, went to New York City for a few years until the British lost the war. He went back to Scotland, found out when he returned to Scotland that his company that he was sending the profits to squandered his money, so he was
Oh.
penniless. He eventually comes back to Fredericksburg, sells his business, and dies virtually penniless. He dies sometime in the 1790s. We're really not sure where he's buried at. He's somewhere, possibly was somewhere in town. So now we have a man who's lost everything to the American Revolution in a building that celebrates the American Revolution,
Oh
and
boy.
somebody that Henry Mitchell would have viewed as a traitor. We've had no evidence that Hugh Mercer or any of the Mercer family haunts the building. they visited the building, but they would never have owned the building or operated out of the building. But Henry Minchell lived there, and then later in the 1800s, there was a family that lived there that had a very large family. We're talking about 8 to 10 kids. This building is small. I don't know how they fit them in there. And I looked up, and there wasn't. And this one was one of those families where they didn't have a lot of childhood mortality. So I don't know where these kids were stored in, probably up in the rafters. But so there have been a woman during a reenactment celebrating Hugh Mercer's birthday, which is also in January. He dies and has his birthday in January. So the Hugh Mercer Apothecary Shop tends to celebrate his birthday versus his death. And so one time there was a reenactment going on. They had historical reenactors, and there was a woman up in one of the bedrooms upstairs, and her knitting needle got pulled out of her hand and thrown across the room.
Ouch.
So he's a little bit cranky. Also, there's been hearing women crying, sounds like chairs are being knocked over, and one of the longtime curators of the building, who just retired, she does not believe in ghosts. She actually saw a child's foot, a little bare foot, go up the staircase, and she just saw the ankle and the foot, and when she rounded the corner, there was nobody there.
That's interesting because we do hear that in many cases. I know that the when the restaurant up here in my neck of the woods, there was a report there of somebody who worked there that they looked out in the hall and they saw a little boy run by the door, but it was just the bottom half of the little boy, and it was in black and white. So I wonder, why do you think that we get only glimpses of spirits sometimes?
I don't know. I think maybe it is something to do with energy. Maybe we're only seeing part. Something's coming through a dimension. I really don't know why we only see half of what we do.
Mm-hmm. Marlene, any ideas on that?
No, I mean, I think sometimes we see what they want us to see, but I would think they'd show more than a foot.
I
So,
know.
but it does, and again, it could be a dimensional thing because obviously when my belief too is when we're doing readings, for instance, for our clients that, they'll say, oh, so and so's in heaven or they're far away. And it's like, no, it's more vibrational, right? So we're all here. It's just vibrating on a different level. So maybe sometimes it just crosses, but you don't get the full image. I don't know.
Right?
Maybe
Yeah.
maybe it's just energy that has been retained, but only that proportion of that energy has been thing for many reasons. It could be a change
Right.
in the building, could be a change in something that was in the building or whatever. But we don't know. This is all speculation. So I'm
Well,
not.
and buildings change over time. So
Yeah.
the story years ago that there was somewhere out west, there was in a former brothel, they would only see a madam in her red dress, and she looked like she was walking on her knees. And then they determined that when she lived, the floor was lower, so she would have
Right.
actually been walking through the room like she would have, but the house has been remodeled, so it looks like she's just walking on her knees.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's a great point, Michelle, because, many times, I shouldn't say many, but I've heard of stories that, for instance, and that's why I asked about the land, because you may have, let's say, a house in a certain area and a spirit might have been, up, let's say, in a top room, but now the house is no longer there, but yet someone's walking by and they're like, why is that person in a tree? Well, the
Mhm.
person's not in a tree. It's just that would have been the room that they were frequented all the time when they were alive.
Yeah. There's a
Well, the
thing.
Mary Washington house is built in sections, and the two oldest sections of the house are the two very ends of the building. With the middle section was added on after Mary's life. It actually would have been a side yard. So we're talking about parts of the house that were completely different during Mary Washington's time. That from another resident's time, it would have been there. So it's just so complex.
Yeah, it
Right.
is. There's a famous one, of course, in the UK where they see the legion of Roman soldiers, but they're only
Hmm.
going to see them from the waist above, and
Because of the
that was
road, yeah.
yeah, because of the road that was actually several feet below the current house. And I know in one case that we did here up in the Northeast, there was a house in Lawrence where they would see a woman. It looked like she walked up the wall and it disappeared into the ceiling. But what had happened is a lot of the houses were moved from the uh, coast to Lawrence, and that particular house found out originally had a second floor in it, and so that was
Mhm.
just a normal stairway that was there. So the theory is that that was just a woman going upstairs
Right.
that her energy was captured, and just that's why she just think it's so intriguing. That's what I love about the paranormal is it's all theories and we don't know for sure, but it's
Oh yeah.
intriguing that we can discuss different things of what you think or I think or whatever.
Well, we actually experienced that before too, Ron. Remember the Tortilla Flats when you had one building, two
Oh yeah,
houses that would join together. And when we investigated, it was the Underground Railroad on one side, and the other one that the house was a newer house that had been joined together. There was really no activity.
yeah. That's
Yeah.
so. What got you interested in the paranormal to start with?
I was a late bloomer, so everyone always says, "Oh, that they watch Unsolved Mysteries." All that stuff used to scare me until I got into high school and I started reading true ghost stories, so the Hans Holzer books.
Oh yeah.
And
Nice.
um, when I was a teenager, I started working as a volunteer, and then later I was paid for a very short period at a building called the Whaley House in Old Town San Diego.
Oh yeah, that's
And Whaley
famous.
House is known as America's most haunted, and it is. And I saw a lot of crazy stuff there. But also, my mom used to have to go with me and volunteer with me because I was underage at the time, and so she trained me. It was like that these are real people that had real events. They're not commercial creation like Betty Crocker. And so I was fascinated of understanding of, okay, so we have these ghost stories. Can we prove any of them? Can we confirm the history with the mystery?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really where I got my training. I was always into the Civil War first. And so when I went to college and I got my master's in history, my master's thesis was I Would Still Be Drowned in Tears, which is the story of Abraham and Mary Lincoln's interest in spiritualism during the Civil War.
Oh
So
yeah.
that's I was able to marry my interest in the history and the mystery. Then I came here in California, came to Virginia. I worked for about 10 years at the Mary Washington House. I'm no longer with them anymore. But this is where that kind of that melded, and over time is where I was researching, newspaper articles of people seeing ghosts during the Civil War. So that's where Civil War goes. And I have a book called This Haunted Land, which is about ghost sightings during the colonial period in
Oh,
England and in the colonies. And I also have a book called Haunted Virginia, which is ghost stories of people seeing ghosts in Virginia newspapers during the 19th century.
oh, that's cool.
And then
Yeah.
that melded into
Unfortunately, we'll talk about that a little bit when we come back because we just got the word that we have to take a break.
okay.
So you're listening to Ghost Chronicles, the original Ghost Chronicles, right here on TojiNet, Pararex, and wherever podcasts go to die. I am Ron Kolick, New England's own Van Helsing. With me is the Queen of Pain, Maureen Wood, and our special guest today is paranormal author Michelle Hamilton, and we're brought to you by Circles of Wisdom, 386 Merrimack Street, Methuen, Massachusetts, the Gallant Messenger Family Law Group, 55 High Street, North Andover, Massachusetts, and our very good friends on Ghost Chronicles Radio on Patreon. Become a member and get exclusive access to a whole bunch of crap. So there you go. I think it's like $3 a month. We'll be right back after the following message here.
Do you have a paranormal event, book, or something else you want people to know about? Then why not advertise it on Ghost Chronicles Radio? With over 150,000 downloads a month, get your message out to an audience that's interested in the subject. We have a plan at a cost that fits your needs. For more information, contact Ron Kolick at anyghostproject@comcast.net or call 978-455-6678.
Located in Illinois, there lies a sleepy little town where nothing is a common occurrence.
You going to that party in town tonight?
Heck yeah! I only turned 18 once.
That is until the night of celebration.
Where the hell is she? Oh no. No, 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 Jessica!
What's happening?
From the creators of Shadowhunters, Bite Me, comes a tale of primal terror and grindcore mayhem. Shadowhunters, kill, Jessica, kill!
Oh, are you reading me? Come in. Hello?
Greetings from the Shadow, and welcome to Shadowzine. My name is Jeff Belanger. I'm an author, podcaster, and explorer of the unexplained. For 30 years, I've been investigating the paranormal, UFOs, monsters, and things that bump in the night. Lately, you may have noticed how major TV networks and even social media networks have been pushing our favorite subject back into the shadows. I say good. That's why I launched Shadowzine, a monthly underground publication that covers your favorite topics in depth by some of the leading writers and researchers out there. If you're looking for 30-second TikTok clips, go somewhere else. If you're ready for a deeper dive, put down your phone and pick up Shadowzine. You can't find it in stores. This is old school print. Head to shadowzine.com and be part of the underground revolution. That's shadowzine.com, and I'll see you in the shadow.
We're back.
That's so classic.
You know the whole list. I don't. So
Elegant.
I
Yeah,
know.
listening to Ghost Chronicles live from the TojiNet studio. I am Ron Kolick. She is Maureen Wood. And our special guest tonight is Michelle Hamilton, paranormal author. And share her experiences, because that's what she's been talking about. Just before the break, she was talking about how she got involved in the paranormal. She had just received her degree and was interested in the Civil War. I worked at the Mary Washington House, I believe it was. So
Yes.
carry on from there, I guess.
So I wrote Civil War Ghosts, which is a book about period newspaper articles of people seeing ghosts during the Civil War. And then that was followed up by This Haunted Land, which is about 18th century ghosts in England and in the colonies. And then I also have Virginia ghosts, which are ghost stories of 19th century newspaper articles. And then had a couple of years where I had just family got stressed. I couldn't write anything for a while. And so then I'm coming back with Haunted Fredericksburg and Ghostly Tales of Fredericksburg. And I'm working on finishing up one book right now. And then I'm going to go into another one for the new year.
So where are these books available, Michelle?
They're at Amazon.com, also BarnesandNobles.com.
Mm-hmm. And if people want to get in touch with you or find out more about you, how can they do that?
They can find me on Facebook as Michelle Hamilton and also Michelle L. Hamilton author. I'm also on Instagram and Twitter.
Excellent. So was there one book that you enjoyed writing more than others?
Well, they're all my favorite children because they're all you can't name a favorite child, but Ghost of Fredericksburg was really fun to write. That one was really a delight because even though I had been in the history world for almost a decade in Fredericksburg. I really learned a lot about local history writing that book.
Mm-hmm.
So
Now,
Michelle,
go ahead.
sorry, Ron.
No,
I
go,
was just
go.
going to ask, so that there's you made a statement that the Rising Sun Tavern had a rowdy spirit that spooks all the people for centuries. Like, what do they do?
Yes. Well, again, it's funny. The humorous apothecary shop, the Mary Washington House, their ghosts are very much like the spirits of what the buildings were used for. So the Rising Sun Tavern was originally built by Charles Washington in the 1760s as his townhouse. Then the Washington family will sell it, and is bought and then rented out as a tavern for several years. So the ghosts at that property are very much what you expect to be somebody that was in a tavern. They're rowdy, they're loud, they'll bang things. One of the tavern keepers passed away. He got ill, some sort of illness, and he died very unexpectedly in the building itself. And he is a little bit, handsy. He will occasionally
Oh, no.
grab the women's skirts and their petticoats and flip it up a little bit, pull on their hems, pull their caps off. So
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
he doesn't understand, modern. We don't appreciate that, but he's old school, so it's very much rowdy, what you would expect for people that are in a tavern.
Mm-hmm. So you've researched all these places, but you also, like you said, worked at the Whaley House. You worked at the Mary House. Now, what was your most profound paranormal experience that you had at any of these places?
My most profound, and this is also I wrote about this in a book I did, which is a collection of paranormal encounters, and it was at the Whaley House, and it was the early 2000s, and we were doing a Halloween program, and of course, Halloween at the Whaley House was the biggest time of the year for that building, and my mom and I and the other were walking to the building, and we said to the ghosts, especially to Thomas Whaley, who was a merchant, and we said to them, "Okay, guys, we're going to do this tonight. We're going to have fun. You guys understand being in business and putting on a show. So this is all going to be done for fun. If you want to come and join us tonight, come and have fun with us if you want." Well, yeah, they took that very seriously, and the ghosts were acting up all night during this event. And it was at the end. It was probably about almost 10, 11 o'clock at night. And everybody was rushing to go upstairs because in the Bailey House, there's the legend that Yankee Jim Robinson was hung somewhere before the building was built. He was hung on the property, and this is confirmed. He was hung on the property. And there was two possible locations. There was an arch that was in the parlor. That's where Thomas Whaley would tell his children that was where the gallows were before the house was built. And then also there was people would feel a choking sensation on the 13th step going upstairs. So everybody is wanting to rush up to go upstairs to go see if they can feel the choking sensation. And I only felt that once working there, and but there was also one of the Whaley's granddaughters had passed away. She had gone into paste, which was arsenic paste, in the 1890s and passed away. And she hung out at the property because that's where she got sick. And also she's with her grandparents. And so we were picking her and sensing her in the kitchen. So everybody's rushing upstairs, and my mom stands very loudly and she goes, "I think it's funny. Everyone is rushing to go to a section of the house where nothing has been filled tonight, where you're passing by a ghost right here." And of course, everyone's like slams on their brakes. They're hanging out in the kitchen. And so I'm talking to these two women. I'm in an 1860s period dress. So I have the big hoop skirt on, and I have this very decorative headpiece that has very long ribbons. And I'm talking to him about sometimes on this little door, which will lead out to the side yard. One time I heard knocking, and I knocked back on it, and I didn't hear anybody scream. And I started hearing this very weird popping sound, and it almost sounded like a motorcycle revving up. and it was this weird popping sound. And next thing, I actually heard someone blow into my ear.
Oh.
And I couldn't hear what they said, but it sounded like a shh, shh. And my mom looks over because she hears this sound. She actually saw the ribbons on my hairpiece move.
Oh, wow.
It was so loud. I felt the breath on my ear. My little hair tendrils moved. The ribbons on my hat moved. I screamed. I levitated for a moment, and I did that because I jumped and screamed. And then I started laughing. And the funny part was, it happened. We were a couple minutes over. The event should have been wrapping up, and we were going over time. And so that was one of the funniest and most profound things that ever happened to me.
Yeah, that'll do it.
And going back into the house the next week, because it was the weekend before Halloween, and then it was the Halloween weekend. And so I go back in the house for the week later on the Saturday, and I just get this sense that I was one of the Whaley children that was an adult that passed away on the property that did it. There's a couple of the boys. All of the family were pranksters. So all of the kids, all of them would pull pranks on the living. And I just got this sense that Thomas Whaley, who was the father of the family, was not happy that someone had pulled a prank on me. And for the rest of that event, I could not go 2 steps, turn back, and there was the smell of cigar smoke, because that's how Thomas would make himself presence. He would smell cigar smoke. So for the rest of the evening, I'm thinking someone's behind me or bumping back into and getting the smell of tobacco smoke, cigar smoke, and a cold spot. And he was like on me like glue. And I could almost sense him saying, "Nobody messes with the girl."
Yeah. Well, that's good because he's protecting
and somebody got into major trouble because I kept going, "Nobody messes with the girl." Am I absolutely clear?
That's funny. Really is. So you said you're working on some new books as well. So what
Yes.
books have you got coming up?
I am wrapping up my first. I wrote a fiction piece. I'm working on my first fiction piece. Paranormal is about ghosts in Gettysburg, and a woman who owns a mourning museum of 19th century artifacts, and she gets a haunted object, and chaos ensues. So I hope to turn that actually into a series. So I'm working on that first book right now. I'm editing that. And then my next ghost book will be on Belle Grove Plantation in Port Conway, Virginia, which is part of King George, Virginia. I do the history and the mystery of that plantation. Belle Grove is the birth site of President James Madison. The house that exists today is not where he was born at. It was on the land, but that is a bed and breakfast, and I do historic teas, and ghost hunting has been on a lot of the paranormal shows, and that location is very haunted.
So how do you, I mean, you've investigated these places. How do you deem them as, like, oh, that one's really, that's one of the most haunted, or that's, okay, that's happened, but it's nothing. Do you do that, or you just observe everything?
I observe, and a lot of things when I say, "Oh yes, that place is 100% haunted," also versus like that has a haunted reputation. For me, when I say a place is absolutely haunted, it's because I've had experience there.
Oh, okay. So you base it on your personal experiences as well as your research, I assume.
Yes, because so we use Gettysburg for instance. I have had more experiences at the Ginny Wade House. I have absolutely no experiences at the orphanage.
Right?
Yeah, I'm not a big orphanage person. I really don't like that story. I have some challenges. And I wonder of how much of that we know that there is abuse in the property. I'm really questioning how much do we know about it. Also, it's child abuse. That's just difficult for me. I don't like that. I don't do dark hauntings. I don't like prisons. I don't like hospitals or asylums. I like my ghosts to be a little bit of tea drinking.
Right.
That's cute. But that's
good.
True.
It's easier to write, I'm sure, because if you choose to write things that you connect with and resonate with, I think it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
than trying because if not, you'd sit there and you would fuss over what word to write when it's something that you don't even want to put on the page.
Right. And also I have to like the people I'm writing about, sometimes more than others, but also at the same time is I just don't do dark energy. I don't like that. That's not my thing. For those who are into it, that's fine. I went to St. Albans Asylum once in Radford, Virginia. I took the day tour. I was at a paranormal convention. They're like, "Oh, are you gonna come back and do the night tour and the night investigation because we were part of the because of the vendors?" I'm like, "No, I don't like this place. I don't like this place at all."
Yeah.
It's really sad though, but you're absolutely right. I mean, the dark ones seem to get all the headlines and like
Yeah.
everybody's enthralled with it. But you have so many nice stories about, well, like I hate to say it, but nice hauntings where
Yeah.
it's nothing offensive or anything, and they get like thrown by the wayside. Nobody's really interested in them at times, which is sad.
It's like Belgrove Plantation. And yes, there is dark history, of course. Also, I didn't mind say, dark history. Also, I have to acknowledge, yes, we're in the South. We have enslavement, and I will never shy away from that. I'm talking about dark history that I don't like. I'm talking about institutions. As an historian, I will always talk and bring honor to the enslaved workers. So yes, there is dark history at Belgrove Plantation because it was a dark time, but that's something I will write about because that needs to be brought to the forefront. But there's also some ghosts there that are a little cranky that have been put in their place. But at the same time, there's also a ghost cat and a ghost kid that likes to play his ball in the middle of the night.
Yeah, the other thing that irks me, I think, more than anything is that a lot of these places, they have nothing to base it on, and they'll basically make up stories about, hauntings or dark hauntings about a place that really, if you could do the research, there's nothing in it that shows that there was any of this activity going on.
Yes,
It's really sad, and
it's
and
like
what
one thing that drives me up the wall, and I do believe it is haunted, is Myrtle's Plantation in St. Francisville, Louisiana.
Yep.
But the problem is Chloe did not exist. I will go to the ends of the earth. Chloe did not exist. There was not a murder of the Judge Woodruff children. That did not take place. Now, did we have dark hauntings on that property? Absolutely, because we're talking about enslavement. There was also a murder on the property that had to do with Reconstruction violence. But Chloe did not exist. So we're simplifying and turning somebody who should have been if Chloe did exist and the story was her being used as a sexual partner and being raped, and then for her to snap into murder, ever that was true, we are turning a victim into a villain.
Mhm. Yeah, it's sad.
So we need to talk about what really happened on these plantations.
So,
Honestly,
how did you research that? I mean, why do we have that story, and why do you not believe it? I guess this is the
Chloe
question.
comes from previous owners of Myrtle's plantation, and there's other historians like Troy Taylor and other and see, well, there's other Rebecca F. Pittman who's written a book on Myrtle Plantation. She has gone through the records of all the enslaved people at Myrtle's. There was never a Chloe on the roster, and we're talking about a time period where they would document the enslaved workers because that was money. That was power, position, wealth was from these people. It's awful, it's sickening and disgusting. And there is not Chloe on the list.
So where did
And
they come up with that then? Who's the one who came up with
I am
that,
not
Chloe?
sure if it was a psychic or I believe it was, again, it was from a previous owner of the plantation. Because there were child deaths on the property. Some of Judge Woodruff's wife did pass away, and one or two of the children did pass away, but they died from yellow fever, not from a poison cake.
Okay.
Again, and this is documented. They found their obituaries that are listed that there was a yellow fever epidemic that would come through in Louisiana in the summertime. So we know that they passed away. We also know that there was never a woman named Chloe or any version of smelling of Chloe on the property. But again, there there are, I believe that place is haunted. That place does have dark history, but we're sugarcoating it when we're not talking about what's really going on, and we're sugarcoating sexual violence, and making it sound like she's a woman scorned.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's intriguing because that always was a pet peeve of mine. It's like they put these information, you end up with stories, but there's no valid information on
Well, look at
these people.
Jerusha Howe from the Conjuring House.
No.
She was a
Right.
midwife. Her gravestone has been so damaged they have to put a new one out there.
Wow.
She is not part of the Conjuring story. That story, and and I support the saving of the house because it is historic. But we also need to talk about she was a midwife. She did not murder children.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we all
She
go back
brought
to
babies into the
stories, right?
world as a midwife. She would bring babies into the world. She didn't take any of
Wow.
them out.
I mean, yeah, but I think everybody, I don't know, everybody just expands upon things. Then it's kind of like that grapevine theory,
Yeah.
right? It's not necessarily valid and it's not necessarily facts. It's just, it grows, just like, any story that they put out there.
Yeah, and again, and it's doing a disservice again because
Right.
we are twisting the stories of women. We're twisting the stories of those who are poor, those who were illiterate, minorities, indigenous populations, and enslaved people, freedmen, black. We're taking their stories away and we're turning it into this commercial creation.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh
Now,
boy.
going to back to the Civil War, and is there? Do you find a great number of Civil War hauntings in the area?
Yes. I am in Virginia, so we were the center of the Civil War. Also, Civil War per population is the most deadliest conflict. When I was in grad school, we used to say 360,000. Now we're saying 600,000 because, and that number may go up as far as 900,000
Wow.
dead based on census records evaluations because there has been some students within the last decade and a half that have started because the digitization of the census records have now documented that there are about 6,000 to 900,000 people that are missing from the census records that were listed in 1860 and are no longer alive in 1870, and majority of them are young men in their 20s. That is a large population of people who show up in 1860 or not around in 1870. So we are talking about one of the most bloodiest conflicts in American history, and so that anger, that power, that pain still soaks into the ground just like a big giant sponge.
That's horrible. That's just like being in Gettysburg several times and it was a lot, until your
Yeah.
body starts getting acclimated to it and it's not a great feeling, put it that way.
That
Yeah.
also it
Yeah.
also pushed the rise of spiritualism,
Yes.
because there were so
Because
many people who lost loved ones and they wanted to communicate, and
Right.
that's how
yes,
that got it took off as well as it did.
because spiritualism starts in 1848 with here in Hydesville, New York. And Hydesville,
Yeah.
New York was called the burned
Right.
over district because it was burned over so many times by evangelical Christian Protestant denominations, including Mormonism comes out of that area.
Mhm.
So it's called the burned over district because there was just so much evangelical fervor through that part of the country, and it starts spreading in the 1850s because of railroads and primarily women, young women, single women, women who come from working class backgrounds. A lot of them experience childhood illnesses where they almost died, and they would come out of a fever or a coma, and they would have this ability to speak to spirits. So that's another interesting thing. There is a precursor of childhood illness that occurs under the age of 12. They would come in and they would start saying they could communicate with ghosts. So either they are genuinely speaking to spirits or they are using it as a platform to make money or to make donate. A lot of them would accept donations. They weren't getting paid. They were accept donations.
Right.
But allowed women for the first time to be public and talk about politics, because I'm not saying my political opinion. This is what the spirits are telling me.
Right.
And
I,
spirit,
we had Vala Ventura up here, and she did a presentation on the woman who wrote her novel through the Ouija board.
yes.
Yeah, and that's one of the things she pointed out, that it was the beginning of what's feminism, and that
Hmm.
they were able to change from what it was. But anyways, we do have to go because that was the bell, and we do have to
Man,
wrap. But it's been a pleasure talking with you,
Oh,
Michelle.
it has been.
absolutely, Michelle.
And you know your stuff, which I enjoy.
Thank you.
You looked at it from the research end of it, which I find in very interesting. Plus, you had the personal experiences, and
Yeah.
you also have these stories from people as well, and it's kind of blended together. So it's been an interesting hour with you,
Thank
and
you.
I thank you so much.
Oh, you're
So
welcome.
once again, where are your books available? Or here's your chance to push whatever you want to push now. If you
Yes. Get Ghostly Tales of Fredericksburg. Han Fredericksburg. My other books, all available on Amazon. Look up Michelle L. Hamilton on Amazon. You'll be able to find it. Also, Barnes and Nobles, Books a Million. So that is where you can find me.
okay.
Perfect.
So thank you so much for being on the show, and you have
Oh,
a
you're
good night.
welcome. You
Thanks,
too.
Michelle.
You have been listening to Ghost Chronicles right here on TojiNet Radio and PowerX, and I am Ron Kolick. She is Maureen Wood. Our special guest today has been Michelle Hamilton. Good night, everyone. Stay safe and God bless.
Good night and God bless.
From goalies to ghosties, long-leggedy beasties, and things that